Well, good morning, boys and girls. How about a little change of scenery here? We're working on Project Hillbilly Deluxe, as we like to call it. This is our '05 Chevy C4500, was a Monroe conversion. Had a 60 cab axle set up on it with a dually bed, which I yanked all that crap off and got rid of it. We're stretching the frame on this thing, and we're going to put a hitch on it, and we're going to put a new air ride suspension under it. If you want to see how I'm going to stretch the frame on this truck, stick around. I'm JC Smith, and I'm going to bring you along as I do it. So the first step we have to do is get our frame sections up into place, get them squared up and parallel. We're going to do that with the use of some extra steel, some angle iron, a lot of clamps. The new section of frame is in place, and I've got it squared up, it's parallel and clamped well enough that I think I'm ready to get a welder set up. So I'm not going to be using HTP welder this time because they're in the other shop and I don't want to have to bring it up to this shop. So I'm going to use this. This is my Lincoln Power MIG 260. I bought this a while ago. I haven't run very much wire through it. You can see how little's been run through it. That's the original wire I put in it. But I don't want to have to go bring one of them other welders up here, so we're going to use this. But that means I have to prepare this machine for the dual shield method, which is what we want to run. And that is set up on this screen here. We're using 75-25 mix steel wire. We're using, it's a 5/16 thick. It is a flux core wire with shielding gas, and positive electrode is what they want on the machine. Positive electrode means that the electrode coming out, the wire coming out, is positive and the working clamp is negative. So what we have to do now, that's all done, we have to change out the wire and we have to change out the rollers. This thing came with standard rollers, and you know, Lincoln uses their own drive system here. So it comes with a 35 thousandths and a 45 thousandths roller. These are V-grooved rollers, probably very hard to see in there, but that is cut in a V for solid core wire. So which is what this is. So if you take solid core wire in that V, it'll push it just fine. We're going to be using a flux core wire, a E71M. That's what we're using in a dual shield with DC positive. And we're using a CO2 mix, 35 thousandths, and it's going to tell us what thickness we can go up to, which is 5/16. That's what we got, and 26 volts and 500 inches a minute is what they recommend. Again, those probably are in horizontal specs. You're going to see here in position as I am told. So we need to change this out to flux core wire rollers, because flux core needs these knurlings that are in here to help grab the wire, to squeeze it and push it through the liner. Flux core wire isn't a solid wire, it has a flux inside it, so when it gets into the roller, it's not uncommon for it to compress. If it compressed on a smooth roller, it would slip and you would not get a consistent feed, therefore your weld would not be as consistent. So Lincoln does this where these ones are, you know, one size on one side, one on the other, but when you buy their flux core, well, no, they give you one side, so you have to go buy the other one. Now, they only offer these in a 35 thousandths and a 45 thousandths, as you'll see right, where is it? Cord. 35 thousandths and 45 thousandths, so instead of them cutting them respectively like this is, they're just 35 thousandths. So if you decide to run 45 thousandths wire in a flux core, now you have to buy yet another $120 set of rollers. You know, this is where a lot of times the accessories we need for welders get just ridiculously expensive. The HTP welders we have comes with the flux core rollers that we use. So let me get this roll of wire in here, and the tip is already set up for 35 because that's 35 wire. You can change your flux core setting on your wire, your tension on your feed, but we'll get into that. Let me get the wire going here. For those of you who don't know, these two holes right here are set up, if you see, they're different distances away because some welders will have this post different distances here. So this is made to go two different ways. You find the one that lines up correctly with what you have and put it in. Now this one, because it's a much smaller roll, could really use a spacer, but we don't need to run a spacer. It'll be okay. Now what we have to do is change out the rollers, and they have a lock system here, so you twist the lock, line up the grooves like so, remove that, and then this part right here has to come out. This is the inner guide. So you change this all out, and then you take this one, and you can see where it says for the arrow to go the travel of the wire you're using. Push this in here, and it's got an alignment here so you can't get it wrong. And then you get your 35 thousandths flux core rollers. Lock that in there like so. Our other flux core, and again, these are both grooves are 35 thousandths, so we'll put this one on this roller and twist it to lock it in place, which I'm having trouble doing one-handed. There we go. So now that's locked into place, so now we can start feeding our wire. Don't feed any wire through that's got a nick like this or bend. Cut that off and then start feeding it through here. Now we're fed through into the opening here. Close this down. So now when you put the cover back on, we got our wire feed in there where it belongs. The rollers are right. And then this is going to keep that wire inside that groove where it belongs. Okay, and we've adjusted our tension down just a little bit. Our chart shows here inner shield 5, between 3 and 5. I put it at 4. I'm happy with that. I like it. So I think we're ready. We're at 500. Let's go all the way up, even though it's wrong. Take it up all the way. Just save us some time. The gas is off, and then we'll just pull the trigger and feed our wire through the wand. I just bring it out and stretch it out as far as I can, just to make it simple. Keep in mind this wire is charged right now. Oh, there we go. She's out. Okay. So you got to be careful. It is charged. We're not grounded on our piece here. So next we'll cut that tip off. Cut that wire off. And we need our 35 thousandths tip. Slide over top of that. And screw back in. Guess we'll clean that nozzle a little bit first. Clean our nozzle up a little bit. One thing I absolutely despise about Lincoln, where their trigger's at, I am constantly bumping that trigger. I don't know if everybody else has that problem, but I sure do. So the next thing we need to do is adjust our gas flow, because in this process, it says 30 to 40 CFH, cubic feet per hour. I think we set it up before at 45 is what Peter had me set it to. And that is not at what the regulator is, but what it is while you're welding. Yeah, we're over 40. We're good there. Okay, so now we'll just cut this off, and I believe we'll get a ground cleaned up on here. We're ready to go. So we've verified our negative battery terminals are completely disconnected, both batteries, both terminals, from the truck itself. We've ground down, got us a really good clean ground here, because when we're welding, we obviously want as clean a weld or clean of a ground as we can have to get the best weld. We're set up at 500 inches a minute and 26 volts, so let's get at it.
Well, what do you think?
Okay.
Well, I didn't know if, you know, if the first time you used it for that.
If what?
It's the first time you used it for that process. I didn't know if it's working right or, you know.
I mean, I guess.
Okay.
It's okay.
Or if it needed reset or something.
No.
He's got it tacked inside and out, so it's holding good. He's going to go ahead and weld it.
I'm gonna have to turn it down.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm going away. So here's my joint, and I have ground it all flat now. I took a straight edge across here. I want to make sure there's no dips anywhere in my joint, because if there's a dip, that means the thickness of the metal is shallow right there, and we want it to be even as possible all the way through here. And I'm done on the bottom too. You see I got a little bit here. Got to be careful here. This is going to want to melt away. So we're going to go on the outside now and clean up this groove. I want to grind into this weld that we just put in. So the next weld, you can see my V groove right here. The next weld we do on the outside, we'll start on the bottom down here, and then we'll come up this way. But you can see where the two pieces of metal come together. Maybe you can see that right there. So I'm going to grind that right down into here to make sure we get down into that weld for sure. That's what I want. hot. I want a spicy meatball. So I started underneath here and worked my way around. Ooh, that's looking pretty good. Worked my way around here and then up around the radius, because I brought that radius down already and then ground back into it, and the same thing here. So we'll let this cool, and once the flux falls off, we'll see what we got. I hope I'm not undercut. Maybe a couple spots here I'm not quite wide enough, but yeah, we'll see. Like to see when we got a nice even heat zone going across there. That means we're at least a fairly consistent weld. See what it looks like when we're done. Well, that ain't so bad. I don't see any undercut yet, but go ahead and grind it down smooth now and see what it looks like. This side is all done, so before I just determined I was finished, I take my straight edge across and I just look for daylight, you know, underneath the two, and if I've got it flat, then obviously, you know, it's good and we're not thin. And I'll do that all the way up through this whole entire thing in the bottom. And once I'm satisfied, then we'll move on. I went ahead and welded this side up last night so it could cool before we come back out. I didn't talk about why this is a straight splice instead of a staggered. There was two reasons here. One is the fact that our new leaf spring hanger is way up here, and our airbag is literally going to be one bolt on one side, one on the other. So it's pushing up on both of those. The weight's pushing down, whatever you want to call it. And everything past here is just going to be the hitch and whatever's on the flatbed. I also want to make it to where if somebody wanted to go back to a 60 cab to axle, they could just literally cut the frame off right there and utilize what, you know, frame it did have originally and go back to factory. I'm not going to make a traditional liner. I'm going to make a liner that is part of my cross member. So I'm basically going to make a liner that's going to utilize these big 4 bolts here that GM or Monroe actually punched in this, which should have never been this close, this radius. But it's going to come in here equal distance either side, and it's also going to be the cross member. I'm going to build a cross member to go in here. So this side's all finished. You can see how hot it was. I mean, I got really good penetration clear through the back side, and I think it's good to go. So we're fitting the other side to here. Remember, this is factory GM frame, and it's not working real well. We're having this bottom part is sticking out, but this part is sticking in, and we can't get it straight. So I decided to come up here and measure the frame, and what we find is we have 3-inch flange here and 2 3/4 here. So no matter what I do, this top flange is never going to be even. So I'm going to have to build up the edge of it with weld when I make my joint and try and, you know, try and feather it out like this one. I'll have to fill the outside edge of that frame or it'll look like it's cut in wrong stuff. So thanks a lot, GM. You remember this frame came from the C5500. You know, we just can't make 2 flanges the same. We make them a 1/4 inch difference because that's what's acceptable in GM world. Not ridiculous. That flange, I know a guy's going to say, why don't you just flip that over? Well, I can't, because there's mounting holes on this cross member that we need to line up to be able to use. So that's why I couldn't just, you know, flip that thing end for end. I try to make this to where it's going to be uniform when we're done, so we'll be able to use these existing holes at the back. I'll wrap the corners just a little bit. Yikes. Yikesy, yikesy. Now, I'm going to clean this up and do the bottom flange.
So we're practicing what he calls the ABCs of welding. Always be comfortable. This piece of foam came in something that we ordered, think it was an oil pan for a semi, and I said, you know, we should hang on to that, you know, because we're pack rats. But it's perfect for when he's on the creeper, but needs to like kind of be up a little bit. So we use it a lot. It ain't fancy, but it works. I showed him your pillow thing that you use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we'll let this cool a little bit, and we're going to grind back into this. Even though we've wrapped it a little bit, we're going to grind back into it about into this area, and same thing down here. And we'll start at the bottom, work our way up. We got to get all that dirt contaminants out of our valley too. Put my backer C channel in to keep it from, or at least minimize the pull, because every time a weld pulls, it contracts. So if you have a weld here and it contracts, it literally wants to take these two pieces and pull them together and make it come out like that. I've got bracing across here, cross member. I've got extra bracing on that side, so we're not pushing on it and bending it. We're just trying to control where it's going to go. We want to be slightly past flat right here, just so when it does cool, if it pulls any, it should pull us right about level. That's what I'm shooting for. So I'm going to get ready to weld this in now. Yeah, we need that roll doesn't work real well on there.
Yeah, I had to go over there. I heard it making an awful noise. I had to go over there and see.
Yeah.
It was like
They
moving
make a
around.
spacer. If we're gonna continue this, see, here's what happens. It gets out of that drive hole right there, because there's no lock for this. It's not meant for such a small. So we need a spacer in here or in the back, I guess, whatever. But as it rolls, this thing pops off and ends up like coming into that area.
Yeah.
And lets it do that.
That's
it's
exactly what it was doing.
Okay, that's in. We're gonna let that cool while we go have some lunch. I'm not gonna get greedy and try. Ooh, that flux is popping already. Ooh, ooh.
Just leave it alone.
Yeah, we're gonna go eat lunch, and we'll let this cool. And once we come out here and I can lay my hand on it without any heat at all, we'll take it all loose, but not before.
Alrighty then.
Well, the flux is on the floor, and it's plenty cold, so start taking all this stuff loose.
Well, he's happy with it, so he's just gonna grind the weld down now.
So I got the outside done, and I kind of built the edge of these up to try and kind of taper it out so it doesn't look so bad because the flanges are two different widths. But yeah, it is what it is. It'll just have to do. So as you can see, we are all finished up. The floor is swept, the tools are put away, and now we are ready to move forward with the next phase of this, which is making the inserts to attach my cross member to. So that's going to be next, but I think we're getting kind of long here. We'll pick up next time. Hopefully by then I've made a decision on the exact length of the bed. We have 84 cab to axle, so from the back of the cab to the center of the axle is 7 feet, and I have 5 feet from the center of the axle, 5 feet 6 actually, to the rear. I'm thinking about going just with a 11 or 12 foot bed. I haven't decided, but regardless, I think we're building our own bed. I'm not sure yet if it's going to be steel or aluminum, but if I think I could pull it off, or I could build something out of aluminum and it turn out okay, I'll do it. If not, then I'll have to use steel. We've also got some other things planned for this. These steps that are on here are stamped steel. I hate them. They're hideous. I'd love to change them. Same thing with the battery box location over there. I hate it. It's stupid. So we're going to do something different there. I have to do something with fuel tanks. This thing doesn't hold enough fuel. It gets 6 miles a gallon when you're towing something, and it only held, what was it, 30 some gallons? I think it was, yeah, 30, 40 gallons. It's not enough. At 6 miles a gallon, it's not enough. So we got to do something about fuel tanks, do something better. But we'll stop here. We'll pick up next time when you see us do this, and we're making the inserts and what have you. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.